What's going on, guys? I know this is a little different, but I needed to have my hair down because I always have it up. So Jesus, oh my God, that's crazy. And my hair's been getting thinner, and it's been getting shorter. So I was like, oh my God, I don't have as much hair, and I think I got enough hair as it is. But let's get back into it. So I wasn't really sure what to read. So I'm going to read the third step to the alchemy, and then I'm going to go back tomorrow with either a channeling or the raw material. I wanted to do a channeling today, but I guess my mom's heat is out, and she may have to come over and spend the night. So I don't want to get into a channeling and then, have a disruption. That would be very bad. So I'm just going to do a reading so I can kind of be here, if that makes sense. And then continue on tomorrow. By the way, I had the weirdest dream last night. So basically, I was in a sleep paralysis, so it wasn't really a dream. I don't know whether to call it dream vision, whatever. And then so basically, what happened was I saw Jim, and so I know not all of you guys are part of the Hookolo group that I'm part of. But basically, Jim Charles, is one of the guys that got me into channeling. Him and Ivan were the two people who I always talk about. And I saw Jim, and I was like, this is really weird. I'm getting visions, but I'm in a paralysis, so I can't move. And I'm seeing Jim come up to me, and I was like, what's going on? Very, very awkward. I didn't really realize that I wasn't there. You know how that happens a lot. And it turned out to be the Zetas, I believe, because they said it was the Greys. And they were using the image of Jim to talk to me because it was a physical... It was someone that I'm used to, so it was weird. I was seeing Jim, but they're like, this is the Zetas. And telling me some weird stuff. I don't remember it all. And they've been around me all day today. And then I was getting third eye images of Zetas in my room when I woke up this morning. So... that was very interesting. But let's get into it. Hope my hair does not get in the way of my reading, even though it probably will. But I got 40 minutes to spare, so let's do a half-hour reading, 20 minutes maybe, see where this goes. So, step 3 is separation. So, separation, identifying essences. So the Black Crow cause. While this solution is primarily a subjective experience, the next operation, separation, takes a more objective approach. Chemically, it involves extraction of material from the alchemical solution through further heating, filtration, and sifting. Psychologically, it is the development of a self-deprecating attitude in the personality as we become aware of all the little tricks and illusions that have been fostered by ego, including the deeper fantasies and monsters engendered in the id or unconscious mind. During this breaking down of the personality into its basic components, the alchemist becomes aware of the opposites within and separates them from their contamination with ego complexes and unwanted unconscious elements. Depth psychologists consider containing and uniting these mental opposites the basis for the creation of consciousness. For the alchemist, the black crow is the perfect symbol for this consciousness-creating process. The bird's color stands for the beginning stages of alchemy, the dark phases of the death of the profane, yet as a bird, it is a messenger of spirit and hope. Crows are notorious scavengers, often collecting shiny trinkets, and in medieval times were thought to be attracted to gold. Their loud cawing has been described as a call to higher consciousness and was part of ancient divination rituals. For Native Americans, the crow is the creator of the visible world, the great civilizing force of the universe. The crow was also the primary emblem of the first Chinese emperors, who saw it as a symbol of yang, or masculine energy. They depicted it as a three-legged black bird standing in the center of the solar disk. The three legs of the bird represented the three manifestations of the sun: dawn, midday, and dusk. That in alchemy correspond to the three heavenly elements: sulfur, mercury, and salt. These were the elements that made Hermes thrice greatest and that Belinus tried to refine during his daily meditation sessions at dawn, midday, and dusk. The black crow is present in all three of the first stages of alchemy, observing the processes of calcination and dissolution closely. But its real work does not begin until the operation of separation. The purpose of separation is the classification and analysis of previously hidden material by the rational mind to extract a person's essence. In human terms, that recovered material consists of the charred remains of ego from calcination and the repressed memories and emotions released during dissolution. Somewhere in that mass of confusion lies the spark of the true self. Dissecting and discarding what is no longer relevant or useful is the important goal of the separation process. It requires a sharp and decisive will, since many of the suspended elements have a sticky residue of ego or emotion tied to them. On the personal level, we all know how difficult it can be to let go of destructive habits and behavior patterns. The message here is that only by living on the razor's edge can we get beyond the viewpoint of ego and perceive both sides of reality. By consciously confronting previously unconscious elements, we create new consciousness and gain perspective on the ways in which people project their viewpoints and feelings into the world to create the illusion of personal security. Okay, so then we go into his separation process. In the midst of my ego-shattering calcination in the publishing world and my concurrent dissolution, in which subconscious forces began to express themselves in dreams and disturbing coincidences, it really seemed as if I would never be able to pull my life back together. Not only had I lost my career, but I had lost the solid rationality upon which I had based my approach to life. Instead of moving forward, it appeared that I was on a downward spiral, from a self-assured mathematician to a never-sure paranormal researcher, and then from a cocksure New York editor to a totally confused laborer in a Nevada gold mine. I'm sure many of you have felt like that before. My separation from all this hopeless floundering began the day the cable broke and sent the unmanned one-ton cage plummeting 1,800 feet to the bottom of the gold mine. Fortunately, no one was injured, but the accident severely damaged the shaft and the ill-fated Gooseberry mine was forced to close down. Living in a tiny trailer in the middle of the Nevada desert, I had no job prospects and lived off unemployment compensation and my meager savings for nearly a year. Yet my confinement in the arid retreat proved one of the most fruitful periods in my life. I began looking back over my life and owning up to the mistakes I had made, and I soon discovered they were all errors of judgment. I had made assumptions about the world and based my goals only on the viewpoints of my own ego and the superego of society. I had spent my time striving after preset goals instead of really examining the paths to truth open to me. When I took the time to reflect on these things, a whole new world opened, and I saw where the work in my life really needed to take place. Strange images from alchemy books I had studied in Vienna and Prague a decade earlier, flooded my mind. The spiritual nature of the work of the alchemists became absolutely clear to me, and I began applying their methods of transforming lead into gold to myself. The gold I ended up mining was not from a hole in the ground, but from the deepest part of my own being. Sifting through the remains of my life, I discovered what was of value and what was not. I spent my unlimited funds on alchemy books and devoted most of my time to applying the principles I was learning. Finally, I was ready to leave the desert. I moved to California, got a well-paying job as an industrial automation programmer, and became a practicing alchemist. I built an isolation tank that ended up weighing more than the fateful cage that plummeted to the bottom of the gold mine. And appropriately, too, for I was plummeting deeper than any earthly mine could reach. I also designed a variety of electronic equipment to explore altered states of consciousness and deepen my meditative abilities. Ooh, I wonder what he's talking about. My library of alchemy books grew to over 2,000 volumes, dating as far back as the 1600s, and I spent a lot of time translating the obscure tomes into English. I even set up a small lab in which I duplicated some of the experiments the books described. Finally, I was working again. However, it was not on anything that I was expected to do as part of my job, or part of what anyone else thought I should be doing. I was working feverishly in a defunct discipline that had reached its glory 400 years before I was born. I could not have been happier. So working with air. While I did not realize it at the time, what I was really doing during this period was working with the air element to spiritize my life. When I acknowledged its fundamental presence in the world, alchemical air lifted me from the quagmire of my life and showed me the view from on high. Indeed, spirit does come with the wind, concealed in its belly, according to the Emerald Tablet, and it arrives unexpectedly out of nowhere. The most encompassing esoteric definition of the wind is simply that it is an expression of divine will. It fills the world between heaven and earth and interacts with us as a heaven-sent influx of energy, with its own unfathomable agenda. In the subtle world, the wind is a manifestation of spirit and ultimately the thoughts of the one mind. Working with the air element can bring a profoundly invigorating breath of fresh air to the battered personality. Often such experiences give people new insight into the meaning of life and provide an objective reference point for the reality of the psyche. The element of air is higher spiritual insight and, according to most cosmogonic myths, carries the word of God, which initiates the primordial separation of the universe into the above and the below. The ethereal presence of the air element is accessed by de-emphasizing material reality and embracing the reality of spirit. That can be accomplished through a variety of means that include meditation, fervent prayer, breathing exercises, ritual initiations, hypnagogic states, and near-death experiences. Even psychedelic episodes can produce positive separation, as shown by one recent case in which a professional woman and mother of 3 children had an out-of-body experience after experimenting with LSD. I knew I was on my way when a releasing and delicious sense of floating in the atmosphere took over and engulfed my entire being. My sense of being contained in my body dissolved. I laughed with delight and said out loud, "Now I remember what it's like to be without a body." I was in contact with some level of being, fully conscious but without embodiment. An awareness took form in my mind that I had resisted being born into the world in my present incarnation. I understood why. Air is my true element, the matrix of my being. The ecstasy of being free of my body, the aging process, backaches, headaches, creaky joints, lasted an eternity. I was no longer confined by the space-time dimensions of Earth. Ooh, you know what? This just reminded me. Remember I was telling you guys on the raw material? I was like, I thought we were living in a time-space, but we're living in the space-time, and that was kind of like confusing for me. Isn't that funny how right here, boom, space-time, right there, there you go. Huh. I was no longer confined by the space-time dimensions of Earth. How amazing to be me, fully aware and conscious, and yet without any physical vehicle. Out-of-body experiences are the ultimate separation of our essence from physicality. Most of the time our psyche is not prepared for such a profound separation, and it reacts in panic or fear, which pulls us back into the body. The soul cannot leave the body voluntarily without being fused with spirit, whose natural home is outside the body. This final and lasting fusion between soul and spirit in the universe does not take place until the final stages of alchemy, coagulation. Now, I'm obviously not going to get into this subject here, but I will say that in my past I did experiment with LSD, and it does really break down your walls, but for me it wasn't that spiritual. Like, you kind of realize that there's a world outside of this world, but I didn't get that, maybe if I did it nowadays, which I don't do, but, back then when I was 14 years old, I didn't have that experience. But I will say it does, I understand when people use those experiences and say it really helped them. I can see that. It makes sense. Okay. The images of separation are tools like knives, scissors, hatchets, and swords. In fact, during the Middle Ages, swordsmanship was considered a hermetic discipline, interesting, in which the initiate tried to apply the laws of geometric proportions to slicing through space. Other alchemical images include dismemberment, mutilation, surgery, decapitation, divorce, splitting of the Red Sea, the release of steam, breaking apart of heaven and earth, a lone feather, the formation of eggs and embryos, scenes from the Apocalypse as well as Genesis, and complicated geometric diagrams such as the alchemical squaring of the circle. Tarot symbols of separation are the king, which stands for masculine consciousness and insight, and justice, symbol of disposition and balance, which are the desired attributes of the king. Alchemical engravings of this process show a black bird standing watch over the previous processes of calcination and dissolution, a white bird taking flight with fire, and a blackened earth below, or 2 birds picking apart the remains of a dead bird. The goal of separation is to find the elements of the unborn self. At this stage, the aspiring alchemist must isolate the essences within and save only those that are worthy of redemption, even if he may break in so doing. Through the process of separation, the alchemist confronts his true self and realizes that he is made up of two basic components, an indestructible soul or essence and a higher spiritual component. For the first time, the primitive ego understands there is truly something bigger. A person's soul is revealed, his spirit released, and the energy freed from the breakdown of psychic structures is used to rebuild a personality and establish new attitudes. Sifting techniques. Separation breaks through the illusory cosmic play that Hindu philosophers refer to as Maya, a concept that dominates much of Indian thought. In the shamanic tradition, cutting through worldly illusions is referred to as the ability to see, while the process of trying to catch the ego in its habits and manipulations is part of stalking. It's funny because one of my favorite bands is Veil of Maya. So the veil and then Maya, what I just read. So that's interesting. It's like everything in my life brought me here, It's so funny. From these and other traditions, a variety of sifting techniques are available for the modern alchemist to achieve separation. For example, one psychological method is simply to relax and concentrate on the breath, while periodically asking oneself the question, who is aware? In the silence of the response, we can feel our own consciousness at the ground of our being. Alternatively, we can sit in the silent, dark room and repeat our name over and over, trying to determine what it really means. By observing ourselves, we enter an infinite progression or mental loop, until finally there's no difference between the observer and the observed, between us and our consciousness. That primal awareness is a big part of our true self. This state of separated identity is what Alfred Lord Tennyson experienced many times during his life. A kind of trance I have frequently had, quite up from my boyhood when I have been all alone, he admitted in his memoirs. This has generally come upon me through repeating my own name to myself silently until all at once, as if it were out of the intensity of the consciousness of individuality, the individuality itself seemed to dissolve and fade away into boundless being. And this is not a confused state, but the clearest of the clearest. The surest of the surest, the weirdest of the weirdest, utterly beyond words, where death was an almost laughable impossibility. The loss of personality seeming no extinction, but the only true life. Another sifting technique is called using our second attention. The way in which we pay attention to the world in everyday life is the first attention, and most people only know this single way of ordering the world. Yet it is possible to open the doors to another reality, parallel and separate from normal reality. If we look at a person with our first attention, we see their body and their physical attributes and usually make some kind of snap judgment based on that information. However, if we defer judgment and use the second attention, we can sense things about their character or even state of health. It's like discernment, I guess. Sometimes we can even see into the luminous egg of being, which precedes and engulfs a person's physical presence, such as we saw form in the invocation of Hermes in the 3rd chapter. Shamans spend many years developing the second attention, though they usually begin by simply focusing on things that normally go unnoticed. Concentrating on shadows instead of objects, focusing on a person's body movements rather than what he or she says, or simply doing something routine in a different way like walking backwards, are all first steps in this process. By entering a state of not doing or not participating in the world and halting the internal dialogue, that's really important. As supports the first attention, the shaman heightens his intuitive awareness and eventually develops second attention. Alchemist aeration. Aside from such psychological methods of separation, there are a number of physical methods available. Akhenaten allegedly developed some of these methods at a school he founded in the city of Akhenaten that was devoted to the teaching of spiritual breathing techniques. These centered around working with the subtle life force that Hermes said the wind carries in its belly. Known in Indian alchemy as prana, and in Taoist alchemy is qi, this vital breath is responsible for a person's state of health and can also be harnessed for his or her spiritual transformation. This life force was denoted in ancient Egypt by the Ankh, which, like the Ankh symbol, it's like the cross, but the top has like the circle, which Thoth is often depicted holding. For the motion of the chariot, which is a physical body, wrote the Hindu sage Vasishta in his Yoga Vasishta, the god created the mind and prana, without which the body cannot function. When the prana departs, the mechanism of the body ceases, but when the mind works, prana moves. The relation between the mind and prana is like that between a driver and his chariot. Both exert motion one upon the other. Therefore, the wise should study the regulation of prana if they desire to suspend the restless activity of mind and concentrate. The regulation of breath brings all happiness, material and spiritual. That breath could be so intimately connected with the mind sounds. Okay, hold on. Sorry, I misread that. That breath could be so intimately connected with the mind sounds ridiculous to most Westerners, though most of us would admit on examining our breath rhythms that they are related to mental states, which, when you're in fear and you're panic, when you're very calm, you're relaxed. It's true. And when there's no breath, you're dead. So come on. Emotions of fear, love, and embarrassment all cause changes in our breathing, as do boredom, inspiration, calmness, and other intellectual qualities. And many actors have learned, so how many pages do I got? Okay, I'm close. How to turn emotions on and off by eliciting the appropriate breathing pattern. Whether they are aware of it or not, public speakers, hypnotists, psychics, and healers exercise some control over pranic forces. Alchemists try to control prana to awaken dormant spiritual forces within them and achieve perfection. Alchemistic aeration directs and stores a vital breath within the body so it can be used by the spiritual alchemist. The goal is to become thrice greatest at breathing and to manifest prana when inhaling on all three levels of the lungs. Most people have fallen into the habit of breathing on only one level, thus depriving themselves of vital energy. The stomach breather fills the lower part of the lungs. The rib breather, who uses only the intercostal muscles of the ribs, fills the pulmonary midsection with air. The top breather, who raises the shoulders and collarbones when taking in air, fills only the upper portion of the lungs. When exhaling, most people squeeze out only the top of the lungs, causing stagnation of the tiny air sacs in the lungs and limiting the amount of fresh air that can be taken in. The ideal breather aerates the entire lung cavity at every breath and empties it completely during exhalation. To try this yourself, sit upright in a chair and relax. Using the diaphragm, take a deep breath while expanding the stomach, followed by a slow expansion of the rib cavity, and culminating in upper lung breathing so that can be felt all the way into the throat. Then exhale completely, starting at the base of the lungs and climaxing at the top. Exhalation should take twice as long as inhalation. Practice inhaling for a count of 8 and exhaling for a count of 16, while concentrating on filling and emptying all three levels of the lungs. To begin alchemistic aeration, follow the above breathing pattern, but pause for a count of 24 after inhaling. At first, it may not be easy to break years of improper breathing habits, but keep practicing until you are able to achieve these minimum periods of inhalation, retention, and exhalation. They can be expanded in the proportion of 3 counts while holding the breath and 2 counts of exhalation for every 1 count of inhalation. The purpose of this concentrated breathing exercise is to allow the breath to follow mind and establish a conscious connection between the two. It is in the pause between breaths that many people experience something more profound than just physiological breathing. While holding the breath, some practitioners feel an involuntary rhythm rise in their bodies that brings a fluid energy to the core of their being, and they feel as if they can go on holding their breath forever. This experience is known as embryonic breathing or the primordial breath, a sensation of breathing without breathing that puts one in direct contact with the pranic forces. It was these forces that the Oriental alchemists sought to harness for self-transformation within the 7-step framework of Western alchemy. In transporting the breath, says a 2,500-year-old inscription from the Zhou dynasty, the inhalation must be full and the breath should be held and gathered. If it is gathered, it becomes magic. Ooh, I like that. If it becomes magic, it descends and quiets down. If it quiets down, it solidifies. If it is solidified, then it germinates. If it germinates, it grows. If it grows, it retreats upward. If it retreats upward, it reaches the top of the head. If it reaches the top of the head, it still presses up, for the secret power of heaven moves above, and the secret power of earth moves below. As above, so below. I really shouldn't do that. That's very negative. I'm sorry. As above, so below isn't negative, but I really shouldn't make a Baphomet. That's just my bad, guys. I wasn't thinking about that. So as above, so below. I'll keep it like that. He who follows this will live. He who acts contrary to this will die. The separated person. People who have not yet begun the process of separation are tied to the earthly plane, which feels awful. They can be overly assertive and controlling, refusing to compromise in even the utmost, it sounds like my mother, utmost mundane matters. At their worst, they are driven by frustration and anger and can become cruel or violent to others. On the other hand, people undergoing separation tend to be courageous and daring, often initiating major changes in the world and the lives of the people around them, as did Alexander the Great. Successful separation is a quality many people admire in actors like John Wayne, Katharine Hepburn, and Jodie Foster. And if their unyielding willpower can be harnessed, such people can progress rapidly through alchemical transformation and work miracles never been seen in the world. The astrological cipher for the water sign of Scorpio is how the alchemists designated the separation stage. The Egyptians related Scorpio to the descent into the underworld to bring back knowledge, and their Scorpio goddess was Selket, who led the deceased to the other side. The lifelong search of Scorpions is for spiritual transformation, and their qualities are intense introspection and self-control. So if you're a Scorpio, think about that. But Scorpions are bold and can be persistent and opinionated to a fault, often trampling the feelings of others and pursuing their goals. Theodore Roosevelt, George Patton, Senator Joseph McCarthy, Charles Manson, Hillary Rodham Clinton. I'm not even going to speak about that. Dylan Thomas, Richard Burton, Ed Asner, and Roseanne were all born under the sign of the Scorpion. Just as societies and cultures can emphasize different aspects of solar spirit, we all know people who seem to have more spirit than soul or vice versa. But it is a rare person indeed who has succeeded in uniting both soul and spirit in one holistic approach to life. That harmonious marriage of soul and spirit takes place during an alchemical operation known as conjunction, which we will attempt to experience in the next chapter. So, I'm excited about that. That is like one of my favorites. Combining the masculine and the feminine, sun and moon, yin and yang, positive, negative, and really just the marriage of yourself. That's one of my favorite topics, so I'm really, really excited to read that off. I would do it right now, but I only got, I should probably go right now, actually. I gotta go right now, so I will do that tomorrow, or I might do the Law of One. I know, honestly, even though you guys enjoy this, I know, honestly, you guys would rather hear the Law of One, so I may do that tomorrow. We'll see, so. And then, like I said, I'm gonna try to do a channeling. It's just, I wanted to do it today, but I can get a call any minute now saying, hey, my heat still isn't working. I have to come over and spend the night. So I kind of am like on call right now, if that makes sense. So hang in there, guys. I'll get one up in the next couple days. And then I also have this interview maybe Friday. So we'll see if I still have that. Who knows? That'd be really cool. So I'm going to go, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this hairy video. So all right, guys, I'm going to go. Blessings to you. Thank you for all the comments today. All you beautiful people out there. You guys have just been absolutely amazing. Just so much positivity, so much support from you guys. And I'm someone where even though I understand I'm helping you guys, I think it's part of my process is to not realize really what I'm doing. Because like if I look back at, it's like when you have a goal that you work on for so long and you think you're going to feel a certain way, and then you get there and then you're kind of like, okay, like I didn't really, like I don't feel how I should, That's how I am. Like I understand that I'm helping you guys, but you guys commenting and letting me know you're really helping me feel what I'm doing is important. And we all need that, we all need that. So, I mean, part of it is too, I'm, like I was talking to Ivan today, I really got to get out more. I got to balance my life because this is all I focus on, Like I don't go out, I don't socialize, I don't have friends. The last time I socialized was like half a year ago probably. I can't remember the last time I hung out with people or, we're going to go do this. Like that's not even in my vocabulary anymore. I'm just so tied into this stuff that I got to learn to enjoy life. I got to live life. So it's hard for me. It's a hard balance, It's hard balancing these things. But you guys have been helping me do that. So thank you guys. They say service to others will also help yourself. And I'm helping you guys do this, and you're helping me in ways that you may not realize. So I just wanted to say thank you, and that I am just eternally grateful for all you guys. And every one of you who's watching these videos, I send you much positive white light and energy and blessings, and I ask that you open up and receive this, because that's real, coming from my heart. So anyways, I'm gonna go. So that is my video for today. So thank you guys, much love. I appreciate everything, and I will do whatever I can that you guys ask, as long as it's beneficial to everybody. So all right, peace.